Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up and grab your umbrellas, because today we're diving into a recent disaster of Malaga's extreme flooding. Yes, you heard that right. Spain's picturesque Costa del Sol, a favourite spot for sunseekers, has swapped sangria by the beach for soggy shoes and sandbags. So what's going on? Let's get into it. First things first, this isn't your typical rainy day. We're talking about an epic meteorological showdown, an intense weather phenomenon called DANA, Depresión Aislada en Niveles Altos. It's a weather phenomenon that sounds more like a sci-fi villain than a storm system. And honestly, its impact felt just as dramatic. Here's the setup. Cold air at high altitudes clashes with warm, moisture-rich Mediterranean air. The result is a recipe for disaster, like Mother Nature swiping right on the absolute wrong match. This storm system didn't just visit southern Spain, it unpacked its bags and stayed. From October 29th to mid-November 2024, DANA unleashed its fury, with the most intense flooding hitting November 13th. We're talking over 180 millimeters of rain in just 12 hours, and that's after weeks of already relentless rainfall. For context, that's more water than some places see in a whole year, dumped in half a day. Imagine saturated ground from previous storms, and then add this on top. The result? A storm of rising waters, overwhelmed drainage systems, and absolute chaos. Let's take a closer look at Malaga, a city that's usually the poster child for sun-soaked beaches, vibrant nightlife, and, of course, its famous son, Picasso. But recently, Malaga has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons, thanks to severe flooding that has left much of the city almost unrecognizable. Take the Campanillas district, for instance, a place where quiet neighborhoods suddenly morphed into fast-flowing rivers. Thousands of residents had no choice but to abandon their homes as water levels rose dangerously high. Over 1,000 homes and nearly 3,000 people were evacuated. What if you wake up to ankle-deep water seeping through your door instead of waking up to your morning coffee? Not exactly the peaceful start to the day anyone hopes for, right? Emergency services were working non-stop, not just rescuing stranded residents, but even helping animals caught in the chaos. It was a full-scale effort to keep everyone safe. And travel? Forget about it. The high-speed train between Malaga and Madrid, suspended indefinitely, local buses out of service. Even the metro system, usually a lifeline for the city, had to grind to a halt. And Malaga's airport, it didn't stand a chance. The entrance itself was submerged, leading to widespread flight cancellations and rerouted travellers trying to figure out their next move. If you thought catching a flight was stressful on a normal day, imagine navigating that mess. On the ground, the damage to infrastructure was staggering. Streets were turned into canals, shops stood deserted, and commercial areas were eerily quiet. Once busy marketplaces became waterlogged wastelands overnight. Imagine heading to your favourite boutique and instead finding it looking more like a paddling pool. These disruptions haven't just paused daily life. They've upended it entirely. Experts estimate it will take weeks, if not months, to repair the damage and restore some semblance of normalcy. For the people of Malaga, the city has gone from a bustling Mediterranean hub to a place of uncertainty and hardship almost overnight. What makes DANA such a troublemaker? Imagine cold air swirling high above meets warm, moisture-packed Mediterranean air at lower levels. And this results as a cocktail for chaos. These systems don't just show up and pass through, they linger like that one-party guest who overstays their welcome. And the longer they stick around, the more damage they do. This time, Dana set its sights on southern and eastern Spain, unleashing its fury on the Costa del Sol. The storms didn't just come and go, they parked themselves over the region, dumping relentless rain until rivers overflowed, streets turned into canals, and the drainage systems were crying for mercy. It's more like filling a sponge that's already soaked. Each drop has nowhere to go but spill over. Now imagine that sponge is an entire city. Malaga and its neighbours bore the brunt of this relentless deluge, with communities left scrambling to deal with water levels that kept rising faster than anyone could react. It wasn't just the rivers or infrastructure being overwhelmed. Residents' patience and resilience were put to the ultimate test too. Dana didn't just bring rain, it brought disruption, heartbreak, and a harsh reminder of how vulnerable we are to the whims of weather. To fully understand the scale, let's rewind a bit. Before this disaster, eastern Spain faced a catastrophic flood of its own, with devastating consequences. The Valencia region, in particular, was hit hard, enduring rainfall so extreme it completely overwhelmed local infrastructure. Roads were washed away, homes were submerged, and lives were tragically lost. In total, over 220 people died in that event alone. Fast forward to Malaga, and the numbers only get grimmer. With the recent floods added to the tally, the cumulative death toll has now reached 227, making this sequence of events one of the deadliest natural disasters in Spain's modern history. It's a sobering reminder of just how much has changed, and not for the better. Think about it. Not long ago, these kinds of catastrophic floods were considered once-in-a-century occurrences, the type of thing you'd hear your grandparents recount as a rare event. Now, they're happening back-to-back, like sequels to a blockbuster nobody wanted. And no, it's not a coincidence. If you're thinking, this sounds like climate change showing off its greatest hits, you're absolutely right. Here's how it works. As global temperatures rise, the atmosphere holds more moisture. And more moisture in the air means heavier, more intense rainfall when storms hit. The math is simple, but the consequences? Not so much. As a result of that, the flooding events like the one in Malaga are becoming more frequent and far more devastating. And it's not just Spain facing this reality. From Pakistan's record-breaking floods to Germany's flash floods that left entire towns submerged, extreme weather is popping up everywhere, like those annoying ads on your favourite streaming platform. Only these events aren't skippable, and their impact can't be ignored. It's as if the planet is giving us warning signs with every storm, saying, "Pay attention." Yet, the responses often feel too little, too late. Think of it this way. Warmer oceans and higher air temperatures are like adding fuel to an already roaring fire. The storms get stronger, last longer, and leave behind trails of destruction that take years to recover from. The truth is, these aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a broader trend tied directly to our changing climate. And unless significant action is taken, globally and immediately, the storms of today will look like gentle rain showers compared to what could be coming. Right now, the focus is on managing the immediate crisis, getting people to safety, restoring basic services, and assessing the damage. But let's face it, the bigger question is this: how do we stop disasters like this from becoming our new normal? With extreme weather becoming more frequent, Malaga and the world needs a solid game plan to weather the storms of the future. For starters, infrastructure upgrades can't be kicked down the road any longer. Cities need robust drainage systems that can handle downpours like these, flood barriers to protect vulnerable areas, and smarter, weather-resistant designs across the board. It's like giving cities a protective raincoat and galoshes, not just an umbrella. The way things are going, the days of building for the average storm are over. It's time to plan for the once-in-a-lifetime events that are happening way too often. Then there's preparation. Early warning systems, clear evacuation plans, and community readiness programs are no longer luxuries, they're necessities. The mindset of "it won't happen here" is outdated. Communities need to be ready, informed, and practiced, so when the next storm hits, the response isn't just reactive, but proactive. Think of it like having a fire drill for floods, because the stakes are just as high. And let's call this what it is, a climate crisis. The science is clear. Warmer air holds more moisture, oceans are heating up, and that combination fuels stronger, wetter, and slower-moving storms. The solution? Reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy, and pushing for international cooperation to address climate change head-on. Sure, it's a tall order. It might even feel overwhelming. But let's consider the alternative. Coastal cities underwater, agriculture disrupted, and disasters like this becoming so common, they barely make the news. Tackling climate change isn't just a challenge, it's survival. In the end, it's about more than just fixing what's broken. It's about building a world that can withstand what's ahead. A world where cities like Malaga aren't just surviving the storms, but thriving despite them. And that starts now. So what can you do? Start small. Educate yourself on climate change. Advocate for sustainable practices in your community. Support policies that prioritize green energy and disaster preparedness. And if you're lucky enough to visit Malaga someday, don't just enjoy the sunshine. Remember the resilience of its people and the lessons this flooding has taught us. Let's make sure that next time we hear about Malaga, it's for its beaches, art and beauty, not another disaster. The future's still in our hands. Let's not let it slip away. With that, we wrap up our dive into Malaga's extreme flooding. If you gain any insights through this news, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Drop a comment to share your thoughts. Don't forget to share to spread awareness and follow for more weather updates that matter.